Wartink, Massacre fears, rare boot for Slot. Isak trains with squad, 21-man. Squad confirmed, 5 things spotted in training. Konaté commits Camavinga, links, Gerrard itching for return. Welcome back to LFC. Echo Daily, your home for the hottest Liverpool updates. Stick around for all the breaking details. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment and follow for daily Liverpool news. Arne Slot gets rare Liverpool boost as deadly PSG star ruled out of Champions League clash. Liverpool have received a lift ahead of their difficult Champions League clash with Paris Saint-Germain. With forward Bradley Barcola ruled out, there is huge pressure on Liverpool head coach Arne Slot following the damaging 4-0 defeat to Manchester City in the FA Cup quarter-finals. It is a relentless campaign and the Reds travel to the French capital to play PSG in the first leg of their quarter-final tie on Wednesday evening. There is serious concern Liverpool could be blown away by Luis Enrique's side. After all, Slot's men are low on confidence and do not appear to be playing for their coach. Plus, PSG breezed past Chelsea in the round of 16, picking up a huge 8-halves aggregate victory. According to French source RMC Sport, Barcola has returned to PSG training following an ankle sprain, but he has been ruled out for the Liverpool match. The winger's recovery is going quicker than anticipated, but he will not be fit in time to feature at the Parc des Princes. The PSG medical team will monitor Barcola closely as he aims to be fit ready for the return leg at Anfield next week. Barcola missing the first leg represents a major boost for Slot and Liverpool. The Frenchman has been in sensational form of late, having scored 5 goals in his last 5 matches in the Champions League and League One. Barcola found the back of the net in both legs against Chelsea, including a brilliant strike at Stamford Bridge. While Liverpool's defenders will be relieved they won't have to mark Barcola in the first leg, PSG still have several other lethal attackers. Kvaratskhelia Kvaratskhelia was the star of the show against Chelsea, while Desire Doué and Ousmane Dembele are available to Enrique too. Returning to Slot, we revealed on Sunday that Liverpool have brought their end-of-season review forward amid growing fan discontent. FSG have largely backed Slot up to this point, but the situation is getting worse. Sources have confirmed to us that Xabi Alonso is ready to return to management this summer amid mutual interest with Liverpool. In another news, Liverpool warned PSG game could be massacre as terrified claim made Luis Enrique's side his heavy favourite to secure a place in the Champions League semi-finals, and one former Premier League player has not held back in his damning assessment. Former French international Christophe Dugarry has claimed Liverpool's trip to Paris Saint-Germain could be a massacre and that Arne Slot's side will arrive terrified. The reigning European champions are heavy favourites ahead of the quarter-final first leg in Paris, with Liverpool heading to the Parc des Princes on the back of the 4-0 FA Cup mauling at the hands of Manchester City last weekend. That has raised the pressure on Arne Slot, whose only hopes of lifting silverware this season rest on the Reds' Champions League campaign. Given the side's problems this season, few expect Liverpool to eliminate a team considered among Europe's best. Dugarry, a member of the victorious 1998 France World Cup squad, is certainly expecting a one-sided affair. It's going to be a walk in the park, honestly. Liverpool are disastrous, the former Birmingham City striker told French radio station RMC. 14 wins, 10 losses and 7 draws since the start of the season in the league. They're catastrophic. I'm not going to say they have bad players, but they don't play together. In my opinion, the difference in level is colossal. I think PSG will wrap up the quarter-final in the first leg. Do you see Liverpool play? They have no legs, they have nothing. Technically, they have good players. They are not clumsy, but they play at 2.5 miles an hour. When you see the intensity that Paris Saint-Germain manages to put in, it's going to be a massacre. Just think, they just conceded 4 against Manchester City, who we saw against Real Madrid. Momentum is important in the second half of the season, he added. They're scared. Every English team has been thrashed for about a year and a half. Now they're all afraid of Paris Saint-Germain. I guarantee you they'll arrive terrified. Despite Dugarry's provocative assessment of Liverpool's chances, they're not shared by Slot. The Reds won at the Parc des Princes last season, and while PSG went on to progress in the last 16 tie, the eventual winners required a penalty shootout at Anfield to secure their place in the quarter-finals. Even with Liverpool's regression this season, Slot still believes his side is capable of finding improved levels. We are really looking forward to playing again against a really good side, like we played today. It is not the only objective we have. We also want to qualify for the Champions League next season as well. So there is still a lot to play for, Slot told TNT Sports on Saturday. But in general, we feel we have had a lot of setbacks and disappointments. That is part of being a footballer and being a human being. It cannot always go positive, and you need to be there and stand up. And that is what it is about now. Players that have shown so much quality in the past now have a fantastic chance to show that against Paris Saint-Germain again. In another news, Alexander Isak trains with Liverpool squad ahead of PSG tie as 4 still out. Alexander Isak trained with the Liverpool squad on Tuesday ahead of their flight to Paris for the first leg of their Champions League quarter-final tie against PSG. Forward Isak had returned to team training on Thursday prior to the FA Cup tie at Manchester City, but Reds boss Arne Slot opted to leave him out of the matchday squad for the clash at the Etihad Stadium. Speaking ahead of that game, Slot said, "I was hoping the same, that Isak would be among the substitutes on Saturday, but you always do these things in cooperation with medical staff, performance staff and the player himself. We came to the conclusion that it was better for him to have a few more sessions than only one or two, and then immediately jump into a game like this, where if you bring him in, there might be extra time. The situation is now that I hope that he will be available for Wednesday, but today came too early for him." Isak's inclusion would suggest that he will be among the party travelling to Paris, with the Reds announcing their squad for the trip later on Tuesday. There were no other notable injury absences from the Liverpool squad seen in training, aside from the expected quartet of Alisson Becker, Wataru Endo, Connor Bradley and Giovanni Leone. Alisson has said that he expects to return from his hamstring injury at the end of April, while Endo, Leone and Bradley remain out with long-term problems. Liverpool head to the Parc des Princes off the back of Saturday's chastening 4-0 FA Cup defeat at the hands of Manchester City, and with pressure growing on under fire boss Slot, the Reds boss will face the media in Paris alongside Florian Wirtz at 6:30 p.m. GMT this evening. In another news, Liverpool confirms 21-man squad to play PSG as Alexander Isak decision made. Alexander Isak has been named in the 21-man travelling party as Liverpool takes on PSG in the Champions League on Wednesday, with Arne Slot's side hoping to qualify for the semi-finals. Alisson Becker remains absent and won't feature in the return leg either, but there were no unexpected players missing from the open training session that the Reds conducted earlier on Tuesday. Isak could make his first appearance since breaking his leg in the act of scoring against Tottenham in December. Liverpool travelling squad in full: Gomez, Van Dijk, Konaté, Kerkez, Wirtz, Szoboszlai, Isak, McAllister, Salah, Chiesa, Jones, Gakpo, Ekitike, Mamardashvili, Robertson, Woodman, Frimpong, Gravenberch, Nyoni, Ngumoha. Monsieur Arne Slot will preview the game at 6:30 p.m. UK time, 1:30 p.m. ET, in a press conference from Paris. In that, he is likely to be asked about how his side can bounce back from losing heavily at Manchester City on Saturday. I don't think you have to ask me about the result, because that speaks for itself. That's an unbelievable disappointment, he admitted at the Etihad Stadium. Losing is already a disappointment. Losing with 4-0 and in the quarter-final of the FA Cup against a team which Liverpool played so many times, great games against or fights against, and then losing 4-0 is of course a big disappointment. The 20 minutes where we conceded 4 goals were not of our standards. On being able to beat PSG midweek with the same group of players, who Virgil van Dijk later admitted had given up in the second half of the FA Cup tie, he was also bullish. "It's also very crucial that we qualify for the Champions League, of course, for next season," Slot said. "There are only 3 or 4 days to go, so there are a few things you can do. One of the things we need to do if we play against Paris Saint-Germain or against Man City, teams of this level, you need to defend better than we did in the 20 minutes when we conceded the 4 goals. I think no one will probably remember it, but in the first 35 minutes there was a lot to like from my team. And it would be nice if we then can score a goal once in a while as well from the chances we create. And again, we faced a team that was outperforming their XG by a mile, and that's what happens constantly, and we every time are under that. But if you want to have a chance of beating Paris Saint-Germain, you have to do both parts better. If you generate chances, you have to score, and you cannot be so easily beaten with the 4 goals, 3, because the penalty was between the other goals we conceded." In another news, 5 things spotted in Liverpool training as Alexander Isak, Reddy and Andy Robertson cracks jokes. Liverpool held an open media session on Tuesday as the team puts in their final preparations before the PSG encounter in the Champions League. Liverpool trained as usual ahead of Wednesday's Champions League trip to Paris Saint-Germain, and despite the furore surrounding the team's performances at present, there was a sense of calm among the players at the AXA training centre. Admittedly, it's hard to glean much of an insight from the 15 minutes that are open to media, but there was no palpable tension or nerves among the Liverpool first team. Even Arne Slot was in good spirits and jokingly remonstrated with Cody Gakpo when the winger accidentally kicked the ball against his fellow Dutchman during a training drill. Liverpool.com was among the media outlets at Kirkby on Tuesday, and here are 5 things we spotted. Who was there? The big question as always, was anyone missing? Well, other than those who are struggling with long-term issues, everyone was present and accounted for. That included Calvin Ramsey, even though the young right-back is not eligible to play in European competitions and typically misses these training sessions. Youngsters Cornel Monsieur, Trey Nyoni and Kieran Morrison were involved in the 23-man group, all of whom will likely be in the squad that flies to Paris on Tuesday night. Alexander Isak's return All eyes were drawn to Alexander Isak at the start of training. One camera operator could be heard muttering second row to a colleague scanning the sea of green training tops. The striker has not been seen in an open Champions League session since before his December leg break, although he did return to full training last week. After missing out on the squad that travelled to Manchester City, PSG is likely to be his much-anticipated comeback. Winds of change. Many of these open training sessions have taken place in dank, grey conditions over the winter and early spring months. But approaching mid-April, the bright sunny afternoon was a reminder to Slot that the seasons are changing and the end of the 2025-26 campaign is rapidly approaching. The Liverpool head coach desperately needs his fortunes to switch alongside the weather. To stretch this analogy further, perhaps the strong gusts of wind that swirled around the AXA training centre were a reminder that despite the squad's sunny disposition, all is not quite as it seems. Much needed intensity. If there was one overriding criticism to emerge from Saturday's defeat at the Etihad, it was the lack of passion and work on display. Maybe it's no coincidence then that the session put on for the cameras was brimming with intense sprints and battles for possession. Hungarian teammates Milos Kerkez and Dominik Szoboszlai jumped into a possession drill with such enthusiasm that assistant coach Sipker Hulshov had to order both to retake their starting positions. Cue mock calls of encouragement from joker Andy Robertson, but he, like the rest of the team, zipped the ball around with the sort of energy that will be needed at the Parc des Princes. Replicating that on Wednesday is another matter though. A 24th player, such was the commitment to the keep ball activity that Ryan Gravenberch jokingly kicked a ball away in anger after coming out on the losing side. It rolled perfectly over to where the row of cameras was assembled and landed perfectly at the feet of one reporter. Unsure what to do, she opted against trying to pass it back to the Dutch midfielder, a wise choice given all eyes had followed the ball's trajectory. In another news, Richard Hughes scores another contract win as Ibrahima Konaté commits. Liverpool have been facing a contract crisis over Ibrahima Konaté. The France international signed for the Reds back in 2021, joining from RB Leipzig for a £35 million fee. He finally established himself as the preferred partner to Virgil van Dijk last season, helping Arne Slot's side to the 2024-25 Premier League title. But in the background has always been uncertainty over Konaté renewing his deal. Sporting director Richard Hughes is reported to have been locked in talks with the France international over the course of the last 18 months. And with no agreement in sight, it appeared inevitable that the 26-year-old would be leaving on a free transfer. Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Paris Saint-Germain, Manchester City and Chelsea are just a flavour of the team keen to add Ibu. Now, following a dramatic contract U-turn, it now appears that Konaté is going to stay on Merseyside for the long term. Konaté agrees to stay with Liverpool. Team Talk is reporting that a breakthrough has been reached over the course of the international break and that an announcement of a new deal is now imminent. Ibrahima Konaté's camp have reached broad agreement on a new long-term contract at Anfield, the report reads. The Reds had set an internal deadline of Easter to resolve Konaté's future, and that target now looks set to be met following significant progress during the recent international break. The financial package is effectively agreed, with only the finer contractual details still to be finalised. There is growing optimism within the club that the deal will be completed before the end of the month. Barring any dramatic twists, everything now points to Konaté staying with Liverpool for the foreseeable future. Richard Hughes scores another big contract win. It's not yet known how long Konaté has been tied down for, nor the wage package Richard Hughes has agreed to pay the Frenchman. Given he was reported to be seeking around £200k to £250k per week, it's not going to be a cheap deal by any stretch of the imagination. But following on from the renewal for Ryan Gravenberch at an overall cost of €100 million in wages, this can go down as another major contract win for the Liverpool sporting director. We now await the official word. In another news, Eduardo Camavinga to Liverpool, latest as Real Madrid will consider transfer. Liverpool has been frequently linked with a bid to sign Eduardo Camavinga over the last couple of years, and an update has been issued on his potential availability. Real Madrid would reportedly be open to selling Eduardo Camavinga this summer if it receives a suitable offer for the Frenchman this summer. Camavinga has been at Madrid since 2021 when he joined the Spanish giant from Rennes, and he is contracted to the Bernabeu club until 2029. Camavinga is routinely linked with a move to Liverpool, and transfer guru Fabrizio Romano gave an update on his future at Madrid on his YouTube channel, saying that while the player is not explicitly for sale, he is also not a certainty to still be at the Bernabeu next year. What's the situation with Eduardo Camavinga? Romano began. First of all, I think we should remind people that Camavinga is a very important player. Not in the best form, but he remains very important. According to what I know, he is not completely out of Real Madrid. They don't consider him out of the project or a player to sell at all costs. But in case of a good proposal, Real Madrid could consider the situation of Camavinga in the summer. If a big proposal doesn't come, attractive for the player and the club, Real Madrid are not desperate. He is not going to be out of the club. If a proposal comes, they will consider possibilities if the player wants. I'm not aware of concrete interest from PSG. From the Premier League, some clubs are attentive to the situation of Camavinga. They have started calling to understand the situation at the end of February. So let's see what happens there. I would keep an eye more on the Premier League. Camavinga is a holding midfielder, but his versatility has also seen him play at left back and as a wide midfielder on both flanks for Los Blancos. The 22-year-old would command a significant transfer fee given his standing in the game, but he would undoubtedly improve Liverpool's options in a number of positions. Ryan Gravenberch has been used as a holding midfielder since Arne Slot arrived at Liverpool and has performed excellently, but the prospective arrival of Camavinga would allow him to be used further forward, which is how he was used most frequently at Ajax and Bayern Munich. In another news, Steven Gerrard is itching for Liverpool job and holds Arne Slot firing belief. A body language expert has questioned whether Gerrard was entirely truthful during his guest appearance on last week's The Overlap podcast, where he backed Slot and Liverpool. Steven Gerrard is itching to get back to Liverpool, but is only willing to return as first-team manager, claims body expert Darren Stanton. Gerrard has been active in the media circuit of late, becoming a regular pundit on TNT Sports, and he also made an appearance on Talk Sport, where he discussed everything from Liverpool's slump to Trent Alexander-Arnold's England chances. He also appeared on the Stick to Football podcast last week, alongside former Premier League stars Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher and Roy Keane. During the episode, Gerrard claimed he wants Arne Slot to succeed and continues to back him, but Stanton says he picked up on non-verbal cues that may suggest otherwise. Steven Gerrard is not being authentic and not being truthful when he's asked about going in as Liverpool manager, Stanton told OLBG. I think he believes he can do a better job than Arne Slot is doing right now. He doesn't want to go in as second fiddle to Slot or anyone else, I don't think. I just don't quite think he believes he is going to get the opportunity to be Liverpool manager at this rate. I don't think Gerrard has any doubts in terms of his own level of competency to be successful as Liverpool boss, but I think he would want to go in and do it his way, with free rein to do as he sees fit. There are a lot of hand-to-mouth gestures from him in this interview, touching his mouth, touching his eye, and these are all signals that he is feeling quite unsure when speaking about it all. We see some classic gestural slips too, which are the physical versions of a Freudian slip when we say the very thing we are trying not to. He talks about believing the club, the manager and the players will all come back together. He's shaking his head. It's like saying yes but shaking your head to say no. It's a non-verbal contradiction. Gerrard also said he would be willing to go back to Liverpool as an assistant coach one day, but Stanton is unsure. When Gerrard is asked whether he would go back in at Liverpool as an assistant manager, he does what we call a bilateral shoulder shrug, added the body language analyzer. This is when a person only shrugs one of their shoulders. This tells us he basically has no confidence in the answer he gives at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if he has already talked to Liverpool. It would make sense given what we would call lip suppression, where he's physically holding back his mouth from saying too much, and too much of what he really thinks and knows. There are certain discrepancies in terms of what he said verbally compared to what he's doing non-verbally, where his body language is not consistent or congruent with the words coming out of his mouth, such as when they asked him straight up whether he would take the job. He would only go into Liverpool if they gave him the top job with the latitude to do things his own way. There are a lot of red flags for deception when you read into Gerrard's facial expressions and gestures when he's trying to hide what he really wants to say. It's clear he is absolutely itching to get back to Liverpool though. It's where his heart is, clearly. He is almost aching for the chance to go back as manager. Stanton went on to explain that Gerrard may actually doubt that things are going to work out for Slot at Liverpool, saying Gerrard is trying to make out that everything is going to be okay at Liverpool, given the way things are. But I don't think he believes what he is saying at all, added Stanton. We see him touch his mouth again straight after his shake of the head, and that's almost akin to what we might see a child do when catching themselves doing something wrong. It's a physical gesture that broadcasts the message that I wish I had not done that. He knows there are issues that won't just go away. That's all for today's Liverpool update. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one. LFC Echo Daily.